In this week's video, I take a train without a valid ticket, get stranded in the middle of nowhere, walk to an almost deserted ferry terminal in the dark, but then have a wonderful time sailing up the Irish Sea all the way to Dublin. A tale of two contrasting days. It was certainly an adventure, this one. Good afternoon, guys, from a very quiet Clarbeston Road, South Wales. Now, just to put some context behind the title to this video, I really shouldn't be here. About a month ago, I purchased a sail rail ticket which was going to take me from Shrewsbury up to Holyhead and then over to Dublin with Stena line. Now, you may know that Holyhead Port is closed at the moment and will be for the foreseeable future. Well, I contacted Stena and they very kindly transferred my ticket onto their temporary route, which is going from Fishguard up to Dublin. It's a slightly longer route, but that is absolutely fine with me. Now, Transport for Wales, they have been an absolute nightmare when it comes to all this. I also contacted them and I just wanted to change my ticket so that I could come down via Fishguard and travel up to Dublin. And, well, they basically said, your ticket's not valid, you're going to have to get another one, and you're going to have to get this one refunded. Now, you might have to pay the extra money for the difference in the ticket value. What are the issues? I am travelling on a sail rail ticket that has CIV written on it. Now, CIV, as I understand it, should guarantee the passenger a travel to their final destination, which in my case is Dublin. But, anybody that I spoke to from Transport for Wales, they just hadn't heard of it. So, it was a hopeless situation, and ultimately I ended up, this morning, jumping on the train and taking a see what happens approach. Now, one of the issues is that the ferry goes at 9 o'clock in the morning. So, at my own expense, I've had to travel down the day before, book some accommodation in Fishguard so that I am ready to get up in the morning and get down to the ferry port. And that's cost me an extra 75 quid. I spoke to the guard about it and he actually applied some common sense the first time I'd had any from Transport for Wales. He understood the situation, he was very good about it, he was flexible, and it was like, yes, that is absolutely no problem at all. And that's all I wanted really, because at the end of the day, I'm just a passenger that wants to get to where they're going. Why couldn't Transport for Wales understand this and just be a little bit flexible? All I wanted them to do, at no extra cost to themselves, of course, was to just transfer my ticket, cancel one ticket, issue me another one, absolutely no problem. But it seems like that is too much of a problem for the train operating company in this instance. Anyway, so I'm just waiting for my train now, which is running about 10 minutes late, but that's no problem, is it? It's going to take me up to Fishguard, where I'm going to check into my hotel, and then maybe I'll go out and get myself a well-deserved beer. As with most of my adventures these days, it just seems like there is always something coming down the line which is going to get in the way. But keep smiling, eh? I'll see you when we get to Fishguard, and it's going to be an early start for me. I'll catch you in the port. Well, actually, something coming down the line would have been a good idea. It turned out the train I was waiting for was eventually cancelled due to an issue with the train crew. And there wasn't another service for 3.5 hours. So I wandered around Clarbeston Road for a bit. There wasn't much to see. I went to the pub and then I went back to Carmarthen, as I thought, well, if the next one's cancelled, I could at least get a taxi from there. Unfortunately, it did run, and I arrived into Fishguard about 4 hours late in the end. And after a rubbish night's sleep and a mediocre breakfast, I found myself walking down the access road to the ferry terminal. Amazingly, I was in a pretty good mood. Good morning, everybody, from Fishguard Port. I tell you what, let's forget that yesterday ever happened and you joined me on the rather unglamorous walk as a foot passenger down the road to the ferry terminal. Do you know what though, despite all that happened yesterday, I'm really looking forward to this because it's an unusual route. It's a temporary route, Fishguard to Dublin with the Stena Adventurer. 6.5 hours it's going to take, departing on time according to the email I was sent at 0900 hours this morning, and arriving into Dublin Port at 15:30 hours in the afternoon. It's supposed to be a nice day. We've had a bit of rain overnight, but I'm hoping to take some great footage along the way. Why don't you join me? I shall see you on the ship. I arrived at the ferry terminal at around 7:50 in the morning. The Stena Adventurer was already here, as you can see, and it moors up really close to the railway station of Fishguard harbour to the left here, squeezed in between the cliffs and the sea. And opened in 1906, the railway station and quayside were built on land quarried out to create the 3,000-foot North Breakwater. Interestingly, the station is owned by Stena Line and not Network Rail. This probably explains why you don't get recorded announcements every 30 seconds telling you that your rollerblades are going to be destroyed by the security services. And no rail staff are employed here, and it is the only station platform in the UK where you're allowed to smoke. Perhaps surprisingly, there are 7 services Monday to Saturday and 3 services on a Sunday. It's a large terminal building, a lot busier in the summer I suspect. There are toilets, a separate waiting room and vending machines. The boarding cards are issued from the tickets and reservations counter here, and just to the right of that is the actual check-in area. And with about 35 minutes to go before departure, the shutters opened and we were called through. With the terminal being so close to the ship, I did wonder whether we would board via a gangway, but unfortunately we were directed onto a shuttle bus. And this proceeded to drive straight out of the port and back to where I'd started walking from, where it picked up another 2 passengers from the additional building that is situated at the vehicle entrance here. And noted for next time this, because it appears that you can save yourself the walk and just check in there. A member of staff boarded the bus and had a quick look at our bags, and then we were off again, 7-foot passengers and 2 dogs. The bus drove through the bow of the ship and dropped us off on the vehicle deck. First thing I did was head up the green stairs here and find some deck space to watch the ship's departure. Right guys, on board Stena Adventurer we have just started moving actually, and it is 10 to 9, so departing a little bit early. The captain's already been on the PA, told us he's expecting a very smooth crossing, scheduled to get into Dublin Port at 15:30 on time as expected. I'm looking forward to this. There's loads of deck space to explore. I'll see you in a bit. It was a beautiful morning, a golden hour really, and I was treated to some fantastic views as we sailed out of port. The Pembrokeshire coastline really is fantastic, and it is my go-to place whenever I want some downtime really. Trephine, Abercastle, Solva, Porthgain, just absolutely stunning places. Even Fishguard on a good day. Now I've got to admit, I was feeling a little bit grumpy the night before. Not like me, I know, but I decided to cheer myself up by purchasing access to the Stena Plus Lounge. This cost me £25 online. Now, I'll go through how much I paid for everything a little bit later on, but the plan was to just head to the lounge, which was located on deck 8, grab a coffee and some snacks for breakfast number 2, so to speak. Well, first thing I noticed when I got there was that they were selling the same access to the lounge for just £22 on board, so word of warning that not everything's cheaper online, is it? I was told that they sometimes do promotions that bring the price down to just £15, so it may be worth waiting until you board the ship to decide whether you want access to the Stena Plus Lounge or not. Anyway, there were plenty of light breakfast options available, such as the yoghurt and the croissants you can see here. I also had a coffee just to wake me up a bit. First impressions of the lounge? Really good. A large area with great staff and lots of different seating areas available. I was a bit torn really. Obviously I wanted to get my money's worth from the lounge, but I also wanted to spend some time out on deck and looking around the rest of the ship. Now handily you could just grab a coffee in a disposable cup from the lounge and take it with you. And I found the deck space really interesting. I like this covered area here, which provides shelter from the elements, but you can see both port and starboard sides of the ship too. I've never seen anything like this on a ferry before, and I have no idea what its purpose is really. But it's all accessible, same as these areas here towards the stern, which I can only describe as like some kind of alleyways really. It's fascinating, isn't it? I stayed out here for quite a while, just making the most of the weather and enjoying the views. Right, let's head inside because we've got a lot more exploring to do yet, and entering through the port side doors on deck 7, quite a bit of this deck is taken up by the dedicated lounge for truck drivers. We then have the guest services desk here, and to its left a small cafe. These areas were extremely quiet, and if you hadn't already guessed, this was to be the theme for the whole crossing. Now, I had a look inside the shop, which sold the usual stuff you would expect to find on a ferry, but yeah, I was the only one in there. There were staff about, but most kept themselves busy by cleaning and tidying, which was good to see really, wasn't it? The Hugger Lounge is also on this deck and is a reserved seating area overlooking the bow. I didn't see anybody in there during this sailing. Oh, incidentally, all the deck plans on board are out of date. For example, don't expect to go to the cinema on deck 7. That's now part of the shop, as is the children's play area. Stena have improved the latter though, and we'll see a little bit of that later on. I'm on deck 8 now, and behind me is the Stena Plus Lounge we've already had a glimpse of, and in front of me is where the shop is. Well, according to the deck plan anyway. But as you can see, it has now been repurposed as the living room, which is a nice area to relax in. After that, moving towards the stern, you have the arcade, which has a few arcade games and claw machine type things, as you would expect, and also a gaming zone, which is basically fruit machines, gambling machines if you like. And now we're on to the main restaurant on board, the Taste Restaurant. Again, just look how empty it is, but I can well imagine this area being absolutely rammed on busy crossings with large queues for meals. The meals I thought were reasonably priced. £12.75 is not massively expensive for a full breakfast, and you do have lots of lighter and cheaper options if you want them. I'm moving on now to the main bar area. I'm not sure it had a name, the bar, but yeah, it was clean and functional. It had a massive multi-screen here to watch all your favourite sports on. Prices were okay for a ferry, I guess. £6.10 for a Guinness, and I've seen worse. And finally on deck 8 is a play area for small children, which I am able to show you because there was no one about. And when you get close to it, it plays underwater sea noises through the speakers, which is great for the kids, I bet. I returned to the lounge and I found a seat overlooking the bow. It was lunchtime and I thought it would be appropriate to have a glass of wine. The wine is complimentary, as is everything else in the lounge that you can see in these shots. I mean, it's basically snack items like olives, cheese, pop chips, crackers, that kind of thing. The cakes were plentiful and these miniature eclairs were really nice. I had loads of them. And note the bottles of wine, by the way, in the distance. And Stena do provide lunch menus in here, but they are priced accordingly. From memory, I think fish and chips was about £15. So the last of the public spaces really was up on deck 9, and it mainly consisted of cabins, but yeah, I found another area called the Family Hub. I say found it because, again, it was not indicated on any of the onboard deck plans. So unless you went wandering around up on deck 9, you were never going to find it. Now the Family Hub is a really great space with lots to do for the kids, including PlayStation games for the older ones. Now after I'd lost on FIFA 24 again, I had a bit more of a wander around and found one or two of the cabins were open for cleaning. But I couldn't resist having a peek inside one, and yeah, it looks okay really. An inside 2-berth this one was, plenty of desk space and a TV on the wall. The bathroom, it was very much a standard ferry offering really, but yeah, it was okay overall. I'm glad I got to see inside one anyway. And finally on cabins, note that the outside pet exercise area indicated here is right next to the pet friendly cabins, which if you're a dog owner is really handy, isn't it? And if you don't like dogs, well, you can make sure you avoid it. Alright then guys, we are about 4 hours into this journey from Fishguard to Dublin. Now, I've just come out on deck again, and yeah, to my right you can just make out the coast of Ireland over there. And it's not a bad day for it, is it really, considering it is the end of December. And now you could see before, you can't really see it, but I will show you. I'll point in the general direction there. That is Bardsey Island, just off the Athllin Peninsula of North Wales. So yeah, the route, it's obviously, it goes up the Irish Sea there, and you can see both Wales and Ireland. So it's quite an interesting route, isn't it? And the ship, I should mention, is also interesting. Lots of deck space, so you can have a bit of a wander outside. And there's plenty to do inside as well. Like you've probably seen, I'm in the Stena Plus lounge. I've just had a little bit of lunch. There is alcohol available as well, which is a plus, isn't it? Maybe that's why they call it a plus lounge. And yeah, so I'm enjoying that. And I'm going to head back in there now. Probably have a coffee or two before we dock later on. But it's never too early for a while, is it? And yeah, I've had a bit of a wander around, as you've seen, and there is plenty to do for the whole family. And do you know what? I think Stena, well, they have the edge on this over Irish ferries, in my opinion. They do seem to have the passenger in mind a little bit more. But let me know what you think about that. Have you been on both ferries? Can you compare the two? And yeah, drop me a comment below. I'm really enjoying it, so yeah, I'm going to have a bit more of a wander around, and I will catch you a little bit later on in the journey. Yeah, although I could see the coast of both Ireland and Wales for quite some time actually, we were a little bit too far away for a mobile signal. I lost mine an hour or so into the journey, so as always, make sure you put your phone into flight mode to avoid any accidental roaming charges. I'd normally tell you about the cost of Wi-Fi at this point. However, at the time of my crossing, Stena were doing something to their Wi-Fi portal, and because of that, they were giving everybody free premium Wi-Fi. And needless to say, it was excellent, with YouTube loading up fast and playing without any lag, and other social media content also loading really quickly. You'll probably find by the time you watch this, it'll be back to normal chargeable internet at sea prices, so I would advise checking what these are, but yeah, as you can see, it is pretty good if you do decide to pay for it. Now, talking about roaming, I was still enjoying the outside spaces. There were some areas that were restricted to passengers, like these intriguing stairs that I presume lead right up to the top deck of the ship. But yeah, overall, there was more than enough space to keep me occupied. Now, the MS Stena Adventurer entered service in 2003 and went straight on to the Holyhead Dublin route, where she has resided ever since, until recently of course. Registered in London, she was actually built in South Korea, and with a length of 211.6 metres and a gross tonnage of 43,532 tonnes, she's capable of carrying 1,500 passengers, some of which can make use of her 124 cabins. The vehicle decks will carry up to 500 cars, and there are also 80 crew members aboard. Now, on today's sailing, it wouldn't have surprised me if there were more crew than passengers, to be honest. Now, propelled by two Kamiwa controllable pitch high skew propellers, apparently, the service speed is 21 knots according to the official Stena Line leaflet I was reading during the sailing. Now, at present, she is making this 6.5 hour crossing up to Dublin in the day, and then a 7 hour overnight crossing back to Fishguard, leaving at 2300 hours from Dublin. Now, weather conditions favoured a stable journey today, and I carried on watching the world go by. Enjoy the views with me as we head towards Ireland and the entrance into Dublin Port itself. The approach into Dublin Port is fantastic, isn't it? And for me, it is one of the most iconic ports in the world, with the twin chimneys of the Poolbeg power station you can see for miles, the intriguing port and starboard markers guiding ships through the channel, and the ship in itself, of course. There is always something to see here. Now, price-wise, well, as I said back in Clarbeston Road, which seems an age away now, I was on a sail rail ticket, and that detailed my travel all the way from Shrewsbury to Dublin Port with Transport for Wales trains and Stena line ferries. Total cost was £44.70 adult single via Holyhead. Now, don't get me started on the CIV conditions again. I had to read up on them prior to taking this trip. It would have been useful if the staff at Transport for Wales, especially the ticket office staff, had done so as well. They just did not have any idea as to their conditions of use, but yeah, do let me know your thoughts. Have you heard of CIV conditions? Have you had any experience of using them? Yeah, it did cost me a lot more money to make this trip in the end, and yeah, it was a whole lot of hassle to get to Fishguard, wasn't it? But, you know, that's travel sometimes, and they're two contrasting days, and companies really. I mean, the amount of hassle I had with Transport for Wales compared to the excellent service I had with Stena. I'm not sure I'm going to be heading back down to Fishguard in a hurry anytime soon, but the ferry journey itself, yeah, that was really enjoyable, and I'm glad I made the effort in the end. Now, we left the ship on another bus which took us to the terminal where our photo IDs were checked, and after that I decided to walk the 1.5 miles or so to my hotel, where I just took a couple of minutes to summarise the journey. Right then guys, at my hotel, the Premier Inn North Docklands once again in Dublin city centre. Just got here on the Stena Adventurer, and what did you think about the ship? Let me know in the comments below. For me, yeah, it was pretty good. Sailing an unusual route, the Fishguard to Dublin service, because at the time of this video, Holyhead Port was closed to all ferries. So, yeah, it's first time on the ship. I thought it was pretty good. There was plenty of outside deck space. I spent some time in the Stena Plus lounge, which for £25 was okay value. You can obviously get it cheaper on board, as I found out. And if you can get it cheaper than that with any kind of promotions that they're running, then go for it, I would say. Otherwise, yeah, there's plenty on board to keep you occupied. Yeah, really enjoyed that sort of family zone up on deck 9. And yeah, the restaurant, the bar, the prices, they all look fairly reasonable and comparable to Irish ferries. I don't think there's a lot between the two companies, to be honest. I just personally prefer Stena. I think their ships, they just have a little bit more of a modern feel to them. Maybe they're a little bit more generic. I don't know, but it's kind of my personal opinion, really. Let me know yours, as I said, in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. I shall catch you on another adventure soon, I'm sure. And until then, guys, cheers for now.